more things that you can do with type. We had done the type, the basic type where we went in and we just changed the scale, the baseline shift, things of that nature, learned about kerning and tracking and so on. I want to show you in this video a little bit more about how you can manipulate your type. Again, I'll put out this, I call it Greek text. That's an old term that we use for this kind of, it's dummy text. It doesn't really mean anything that you get it out there initially. I'm going to go ahead and put in the word type here, and let's choose something like impact. There it is. We'll use impact. And I'll make this bigger so that we can see it. Right. So here's this type that we've got, and we want to manipulate it. One of the things that we can do is we can change the type into paths. You do that simply by using your general select tool, not your type tool, to select the type, and then you can go to type, create paths. Let's see, create outlines right there. This is also really good to know too that if you were to send this to a printer that did not have your font, of course you'd want to include your fonts, but if you had forgotten to include your fonts, if your type is just paths, it doesn't matter because this is no longer a font. These are shapes. Look at it like this and you can see those Bezier points all around there. That was Command Y that toggles between your outline and your preview mode. The things that we can do now is we can go in and do things like selecting certain Bezier points and perhaps extending those things if we wanted to give our type some kind of edge to it, right? So it allows you to do that kind of thing with this. Let's go back with that type. Other things that you can do is you can put your type on a path. Let's go ahead and create a path. Let's get my pen tool. I apologize for the sounds of chainsaws in the background. There's nothing I can do about that. So let's take this path and smooth out a little bit. There. So we've got a path and we can simply go get our type tool. And even if I didn't go to my type on a path tool, if I just have my type tool and I go over a path like this, you'll see it changes to a type on a path tool. I click on that, automatically puts in the Greek text, and I can put my type on a roller coaster. Right now, the type is set. Let's go here. You can see that it's still justified. Let's put a line left, and there it is. And I can move that along this line by moving the left justification, the left edge here, right? I can even go and take it and pull it over to the other side and have it go upside down, right? So this type is currently left justified. I can go back and center it, and now I would be moving it by using the center part here, right? So that's one way to do that type. And you might note if you go to your type palette again, or your type tool, I should say, double click on that and you'll get some type path options. Right now, the default is rainbow. And I'll preview these options as I go. When I go to skew or to 3D ribbon, stair step, or even more bizarre, gravity, which I don't know when you would ever use this, but it's kind of cool looking anyway. And we can do things like flip it right here as well, which makes that even simpler, right? So you can do different things with the effect, and you can align it to different areas if you wish along there. Sometimes that's really handy, especially if you were doing type on a circle, for instance, and you wanted it to be put out from that edge. Matter of fact, let's do that. I'm going to go ahead and get a circle here, and I'll do the type on a path tool. First, let me copy my circle. Copy it. Now I'll do the type on a path tool, and I'll paste that circle back in place. And you can see where that is now with the baseline here. And this would be a great place to do a baseline shift, right? To get it to go out from that baseline there. So I need to make sure I've got it selected when I do that. I did not have my baseline selected. There we go. To press it out and find out the, get it to the right space so that now any descenders I might have or anything else that drops below the baseline doesn't get obscured by running into that circle there. So handy to know how to do that. You can also, let's go ahead and create another shape. We looked at last time at using the type tool to draw out a space to fit the type into. You can also go in and using the type tool and click on that, you can make type fit into a specific space as well, right? By clicking on that vector shaped object, it's trying to fit that in there. So that's handy to know as well if you need to make type fit into a specific shape. But suppose we want to make it fit into a shape, but not in this way. Let's create a shape. Like this. I'll make it into an outline, and I'm going to lock it for right now. And then I want to maybe make this type fit into that space, right? Right now, because I'm in Essentials, I don't get to see the same palette. I like to go to, I'm going to take this out for right now, Essentials Classic, because that gives me, it's easier for me to find the tools that I used to work with this. Up here, you'll notice in Essentials Classic, this make envelope options. While this type is selected, I can do things, for instance, like I can make with a warp or make with a mesh. Right now, make with a warp selected. Let's see what that does. We can go in and change things via, we can make things into an arc, different kinds of ways of making this look, right? And we can make it do different things even horizontally or vertically. So that's actually really handy to play around with as well. Let's look at the make with a mesh option here. If we do that, then we'll get this dialog box that asks us what the parameters of our mesh are. For this, I like to work with the number of columns to be the number of characters that I'm working with, and that happens to be 4 characters. I got 4 columns, that's good. Usually with rows, if it's a single line of type like this, I will do either 1 or 2 rows. I'll show you what that looks like. It's applied this mesh here, and what I can do now is I can go in using my direct select tool and go over these points and actually start to make things fit these spaces. And these are Bezier points, so I can manipulate those curves just like I would if they were any kind of vector. right? Squishing my type in there. It's all really handy to play around with here. I'm starting to look at fitting into that shape. I'm going to unlock the shape for a second and hide it, but you can see what's going on with this now. A couple of things about this. If I click on it, you'll see up here I have these two options. I can either manipulate the envelope or I can edit the contents, which is a type here. I go to edit contents, you'll see that I'll get this back. Matter of fact, if I look at it in outline view, it just looks like regular type. That's because what's happening here is this is an effect that's being put on there. But this allows me to go in and maybe I want to misspell it, for instance, you know, or change the spelling, whatever. If by selecting it and manipulating the contents, then I can do that. If I want to continue to edit the envelope, I can do that as well. Oops, I need to deselect first and then get over that one point. Now, as I mentioned, this is just an effect. If we look at this Command Y, we see the envelope because that's what's there. But if we go to edit contents, we'll see that that is just like that. If we wanted to make this permanent, we can select it and go to Object, Expand. And then when we expand it, now when we look at it, it is that. And we could continue to even manipulate it even further if we wanted to now in a very specific way. Right. Anyway, so there's some additional things that you can do to work with your type to create more interest.